So before we kind of shift that over to the environmental side of wellness, just want to hear from the room. For those of you that have gotten your HRA data and your biometric screening data, what process do you use, or what steps do you take to kind of turn that into the wellness program that you're going to offer at your agency? How do you use that information?
We haven't received HRA data yet.
You have not received it.
Well, actually, you could just be, for the HWI teams, you can just be using the example of the Total Worksite Initiative survey, which is an HRA and an LS4. So that question would be, say the question.
So just how would you use population health data
Yes.
collected from an HRA and your on-site screenings to help you figure out when you go out to employees or when you're making the case to your organization's leaders, here are the things we're going to do in our wellness program?
We took a look at our data and we just decided that exercise was the most logical place to start because it did hit everything, almost everything, from depression to not being able to sleep to obesity to high blood pressure. So we're focusing on the exercise.
Yep. Couldn't agree more.
We took the data directly to senior management and let them raise their eyebrow at the numbers to help motivate them, and presented it to some 50 other wellness organizers in the agency, just so they understand the importance of actually promoting. And then, of course, we're looking at it and seeing what type of activity we should bring in.
Any surprises for anyone that got agency-specific or looked at Healthy Worksite Initiative-wide HRA results? Any surprises as to things that you thought would either show higher or showed up lower?
Oh, yeah. Blood pressure was much higher, much greater risk of folks, and lack of awareness of health conditions.
One of the things that we're seeing in ongoing analysis that we're doing is that stress levels, probably no surprise, are increasingly high. And again, if there's pressure at your agency because new teams are coming in and budgets are being scrutinized, one of the things you're going to want to do is say, hey, we need to maintain what we have, and we actually ought to think about increasing our investment selectively, because if we can lower our employee stress, we're going to have better on-the-job outcomes. Right? So imagine an agency where safety is key to the day-to-day workflow. If stress is high, you can imagine the number of incidents going to go up. So if I can, through my medical plan or through the resources that the Worksite Initiative team provides, get stress management resources out there, education programs, etc., that's the sort of investment that you need to be making the case for. Same thing with exercise. We all know that more exercise and lower stress. Scott.
I thought from the overall data, I was very surprised, especially the first round. We have about 40% of the total population that's now essentially reported in. And the amount of risk in the clinical side, blood pressure, blood sugar, and lipid levels, and the amount of unknown risk where people were, either they were actually unaware or they had been told and had conveniently forgotten. They were functionally unaware, I would say. And then when you couple that with the high level of people that reported such low levels of exercise, I thought those two were really, together, were quite a combination.
This health is one where the sniff test doesn't work, right? So I might look healthy. I don't, Joe or Jane, they don't look overweight. They don't look like they're struggling. But when they take that HRA, it's a real eye-opener for them. And to the extent you all, as you implement your agency-specific programs, can build more or less some immediate next steps to help employees act on that, you're going to start to see, I think, the momentum that you want to see. I was just kind of overhearing some of the chatter about, 6 months down the line, we had all these employees take a program, and 6 months later, they've all sort of abandoned what they've learned. And so again, I think here, you want to make sure that that HRA is something that they take with them and use them as an opportunity for behavior change. Why don't we move on over to the environmental part of this? And I'm sure that this will hopefully kind of aid your case as you seek to make policy changes. On page 26, our analysis quantified something that we call the environmental premium, which is we looked at organizations that we defined as having a supportive wellness environment versus those that didn't. And what we found is those that did realized in aggregate about 40% greater behavior change on those key health behaviors than organizations that didn't have a supportive environment. And that greater behavior change is going to translate into things that organizational leaders care about again. So lower healthcare dollars and increased productivity. So there's a real business case for that. But then the trick is, which is what we've all been talking about, is how do you make that happen? And there are a couple of pieces there on page 28. So there's two pieces. One is consistency. And what we mean by consistency is we talk about being healthy, but do our actions support that? So that's what we mean by consistency. Basically, anytime an employee sees a signal, whether it's at the cafeteria, or at the team meeting, or whether they want to go out and take a walk on their shift, do they feel like they're being signaled to make the healthy choice? And that's why that goes back to that experiment from Yale at the beginning. So what sort of signaling are they getting along with that information? The second thing is accountability. Do employees perceive this just to be another HR thing, flavor of the month, a lot of talk? Or do they think that there's accountability for it at all levels of the organization? There was a lot of talk, at least at my table, and I think some of the others, about how do you get the mid-level manager who manages a team, how do you get him or her to support this, to give their blessing, to role model, to champion some of these behaviors. So those are the two things that are key. And what we found in consistency, and again, this can be a roadmap as you're looking at your agencies, on page 30. On the left, what you're seeing is response to a question that we asked employees in the survey. To what extent are your organizations consistent with stated wellness objectives? So about 60%, a little under 3/5 said, you know what, I don't think my organization is consistent. If you're trying to create a culture of health, that is a killer right there. Because your employees believe you have a plan. On the right, these are actually employee quotes, and we kept the organizations anonymous, but check these out. They tell us to go work out. The gym in their building is shut at 5 p.m. If you can't work out in the morning, you can't work out at all. It's ironic that we get all these notes about eating healthy and then donuts and cookies are rewards from upper management. So kind of funny, really sort of simple, doesn't seem that exciting. But those are the types of things that we need to change if we want to build a culture of health. If we want to make it easy for employees to make the healthy choice. And again, you can look at these 4 things on the right of this page, and you can do a policy audit at your agency. You can get together an informal group of folks, communication, HR, facilities, vendor reps, anyone that could be involved in executing and identifying and executing a change at an agency level to figure out what those should be. In a very successful organization on the wellness front, USAA, for those of you who don't know, they provide insurance products to military and their family. And in 2006, they won the Coop Award for their health and productivity program. And what they've done is they've created an organization-wide committee. It's basically led by the head of HR, but it has facilities, corporate communications, vendors, etc. So anyone involved in any policy having to do that can affect health. And the charge of that committee is to identify policy barriers and get